So I want to talk about raising capital. It's the thing that everybody focuses on when it comes to private equity. How am I going to get the investors? I got to find some investors. I don't know any investors. I got to get the investors to invest in my fund. So once I meet them, I need to know how to convince them to invest in the fund. Because if I don't have the investor in the fund, then I don't have a fund, then this whole thing is for naught. So the focus becomes how do I get investors? And people are surprised when I say that's such a small portion of what's important and almost last on the list. It is just not even the first on the list. Not only is it not important, there's a lot of other pieces that are much, much, much more important. And it's funny. It reminds me of a guy, Mihal. So there was a friend of mine in San Diego. He had this other buddy in San Diego, and he wanted to start a franchise. He's like, "Hey, I know a guy who would help start a franchise." So I was involved with launching a franchise called iTrip, and so he's like, "Hey, I'll connect you guys and you can talk and maybe he can walk you through what it would take for you to franchise your business." So we jumped on the phone. I had no idea what he did for a living, but I'm going to take a sip before I even tell you this. It's really interesting, so you want to wait. So jump on the phone with this guy and I'm like, "All right, tell me about your business." He's like, "Well, have you ever seen the movie Hitch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have." He's like, "Well, I'm kind of like that guy in the movie." Like, which guy? I'm thinking maybe the fat guy. Who was in this movie? It's like Will Smith, the guy. I'm kind of like him. I'm like, okay, like, what do you do? Like, is that what you do to make money? I don't understand. And so literally, this guy lived in San Diego, and people would fly out, stay in this amazing little mansion that he had. And it wasn't a mansion. It was on the beach, though, and it was super cool. It was very modern. So next time I was with my buddy, I had went by and met him, and he's like, "I want to franchise my business. People, are coming from all over. I have a lot of leads. If I had other people in these other cities teaching guys how to talk to girls, then they could be successful doing that." So I'm like, huh, sounds interesting. Who knew that could be a bit of it? I'm thinking he's not really making that much money. That was probably the other thing that was crazy was, when he told me that, I was just like, dude, that is not going to work as a franchise. Like, maybe you're eking out a living doing this, who knows, making 50 grand. I found out later it was like a multi seven figure business. So it was pretty funny. But the thing that makes me think of this is it's like those guys. So one of the things that he said was, we have people who are they come out and we get repeat customers. And I'm like, it seems like once they have it down, like they won't want to come back. And it's like, well, what happens is they learn how to talk to a girl, and they get a girl's phone number. It's the first time they've ever gotten a girl's phone number. They take girls out on a date, and just all these things, and it's very exciting for them. And they finally get that girlfriend, and then after 2 months, whatever, the girlfriend breaks up with them, and they feel like they're rusty, and so they come back again. And he brought up the point. He was like, it's funny because they never go to get training on how to keep a girlfriend. They never figure that out. Like, that's not the focus. They only come back to me to get the next girlfriend and the next girlfriend. So as he's talking about that, it's kind of interesting, but it reminds me of what people do when they're coming to me about starting a fund. The focus is all, how do I get an investor? And I never hear anybody say, how do I keep investors? How do I keep whatever investor I get, how do I keep them happy? And the way you do that is generating really, really great returns. One of the strategies that I talk about on the channel is the infinite return strategy. The funny thing that is, when you're dealing with an investor, if you understand some of the strategies that I talk about in the infinite return strategy video, the funny thing is you'll never have to worry about getting investors. The word will spread. Whereas the person that's focused on how do I get the right promotional material? How do I convince this person to invest in me before they're figuring out how do I generate really great returns? Those are the people that end up kind of being flashes in the pan and things don't work out long term. I had an experience with this myself, and this is when I changed my philosophy. And I raised the one of my recent funds, which was a 8-figure fund, but I didn't have the money. I didn't have the strategy. I'm sorry, I had the money. I didn't have the strategies and the team and the processes and everything that needed to be in place to be able to get a really great return on that amount of money. And so I ended up sending millions and millions of dollars back to the investors because I couldn't get the return that I wanted to get in order for it to make sense. Now, especially for most of you folks, because you're going to be in a fund without a Series 65, you're going to be in a fund where you're only making money if you get a profit. So people get really excited about getting investors to invest before they are trying to figure out how am I going to even make money if I get an investor to invest? How am I going to make money? And it's kind of so funny that it's like, oh, that'll take care of itself. Like once I get this money, that will take care of itself. And it's like, no, you need to put that way before. It's kind of the psychology of even when I'm talking about you need to have the investor as kind of the last thing, and with the first thing being a deal. So you want to have multiple deals in place and opportunities to generate really great returns or maybe infinite return opportunities. Have all of that in place way before you have the investor. And if when you're going to have to do that when you have the investors anyway. And that's what I realized when I already had the money, and now the time is clicking. And this is the thing again, people don't realize this. Every second, literally tick every second in any fund that I have right now, every second that goes by that I'm not generating a ROI or figuring out, some new unique way to have an infinite return deal or go out and have some transaction happen that gets more money into that fund. Every second that goes by, it's lowering my total annual ROI. And every second that I am doing something to generate those returns, the more power be. So a lot of what I focus on when I'm helping people in their fund is I want to work with you to generate create these unreal, I call them infinite return, but these infinite return transactions or opportunities and those kinds of things to have those lined up and ready to go so that you can deploy those at any point and bounce back up your return. The last thing you want to do is, what that represents when I'm talking about being in a fund, realizing like, hey, I'm not going to be able to invest this money and get the amount of return that I want. And every dollar, here's the other thing, every dollar that you do put into something is work for you. And if you're only going to generate the minimum amount of return, so it may even be a good return. But if you got to give the first 10% to investors, and 10% is in the market like right now, like 10% is great. You're making money. But if you're not going to make anything until after the 10%, then that was just pointless work. And so, you don't want to do all of the work that I did in that fund. I mean, when you're raising 8 figures, it's undertaking. And so to do all of that work just to say, no, you know what, you guys keep these other millions of dollars that we've raised, y'all just keep that and not be able to make any money off of that. That was wasted energy, wasted effort, and time. And so that's when I went back to the drawing board and said, okay, I need all these things lined up. way before I'm thinking about and I want to really be practiced and be an expert at those things. And so that's what we focus on in the incubator is, we don't want to put the cart before the horse. The horse is the fun. Like that's the strategies that you're deploying, the ROI that you're generating, all of those things, that's the horse. That's the thing that matters. The investors are literally the cart. They're just along for the ride. And so people are really focused on getting the cart perfect and getting the investors in the cart. And then they're like ready to go. And it's like, oh, like, I'm going to have a horse. Get the horse first, guys. Don't be one of those hitch clients that has to keep coming back every couple months because you don't know how to keep the girlfriend. Get really, really good at keeping the girlfriend. I remember I did a video a while back talking about people pouring, water into buckets that have holes in them. So the first thing, the bucket is like your brain. And so if you don't know how to leverage the water as much as possible, the money as much as possible, then it's just leaking out. So you're focused on trying to pour more money in, and it's just coming out the bottom. Thanks so much for checking out the video. If you're interested in starting a private equity fund, feel free to hit us up, acechapman.com. Be sure to subscribe. I'm doing a lot more lives while we are in quarantine. And comment with your questions because I do answer them. Eventually, I always answer them. So be sure to comment below. Thanks so much.